Okay, today we're going to be covering, this is for Miami development, the loopholes with Live Local, and in one of the biggest areas that you're seeing this go up. We talked a little bit about some of these developments, and I'm going to focus on one of these, which is the largest, tallest building ever approved in Wynwood. And we're going to get to that and how they did it and why this is now the new loophole. If you're trying to make 10 million or more on one piece of land without an assemblage, you need to be looking here. Okay. Miami's Wynwood, this was covered by some, has faces a high-rise building boom with at least four major projects. I added one here that could transform them. One of those is by Baz Development. I don't think there's a development name on it. It's a 48-story tower with 544 apartments. Another one is a 39-story tower located 5 blocks from there. That's by an affiliate of Hid Rock Properties. You have a 19-story high-rise, 401 apartments right around the corner as part of the project Miami Court Holdings. 25-story building complex, 1,000 apartments. This is the one we're going to be covering, Ultimate Equity. This was approved, which is insane. They went taller than 25. And then Clara Homes bought 0.39 acres, and that was 7 million an acre. They proposed 18 stories. That also went in front of the board, I think, in the same month and didn't. We're going to give you updates on these. Baz Developments, North Miami project. You can read about these or look them up. It got a no vote from Wynwood Design Review Committee and Miami's Urban Development Review Board. Now, we have projects. These are advisory groups, but in my experience as a developer in my own city and here as well, you're going to face substantial uphill battles trying to get these approved. I've been trying to get this developer on the phone to talk, but these are some of the comments from the Wynwood Design Committee and Miami's Urban Development Review Board, which is ground floor retail and lobby facades don't have sufficient modularization and architectural interest. Criticism on the parking's massing. Break it down, introduce art schemes, which you'll see in a lot of these. Ventilation louvers, they're talking about the tower's facade, which is insufficiently modulated. Building crown was recommended for rethinking. Rooftop structures for mechanical systems. Activations related to art and other ones, and utility screening. Scale and context. They also talked about the massing, the 48-story height, and they're using a Live Local set aside. This was supposed to be 12 stories, but you're not going to see that on its own because we're going to go into that one that was approved. And they emphasize that it's out of context, that the overly simplistic ground level engagements with retail space and parking art treatment. Both of them have a lot of problems with it, but under Live Local, what could Baz do? Baz Development could proceed, and they could, even with denials, there's a clear legal framework, which I don't have in my state in Columbus. This is why I moved to Miami, because of the Live Local protections. After being here for 60 days, testing the market, looking at a few hundred land plots last year, I decided to move here. They can bypass zoning, so the height is supported because it's committed, and it's also supposed to be expedited. I don't think they've done these because they went back and they got this back in like September. But minimal design control, they can't really say that. I would modify this a little bit and just say, hey, instead of fighting, we're here to do it. And you keep going back to these boards. You listen, you keep getting back every 30 to 60 days, you can come back. Live Local, this is if they had an attorney, which I'm not sure if they do or not, but they would preempt local Live Local laws. It would say that with that bonus, the density limits are unenforceable and height restrictions. Also, they can recommend, not enforce. While there's not a legal grounds to deny under Live Local. They can argue about due process and administrative rights under Florida law. What they're going to run into is these are the three potentials that could slow them down. They could do it with height, traffic flow, or emergency access. Non-compliance, which would be code, setbacks, and design standards. This is what any waivers that you're going to get, if they're not typically supported, you're going to go to court, which you have to decide if you want to do that. And a lot of these, if you don't get it in court, you have to restart. So it's better to work with these groups and try to get approvals. while community don't over heavy resistance could put public pressure. Strategic. This is what they would do if they want to fight and move forward with their current. They would issue a letter to the city of Miami zoning department, say that it combines, talk about the nine binding recommendations. Denial based on these would be unlawful, which are the concerns that were brought up. They could keep changing some of these small things. They can appeal and then engage legal counsel. Um, it says they have strong uh, everything, but overall, I wouldn't recommend this pathway personally. We're going to look into some of these other developments. I'm waiting to hear back on this development. That is probably the tallest tower that's proposed. But again, I think to go from 12 to 48, that's kind of how I was. You get a little bit overexcited. And what I have found is that people take you very seriously when you use an attorney. Make sure your attorney's with you. Make sure you have an attorney. Make sure you have an architect that can get these passed. And I'm going to show you the consistencies of the proposals that got approval, how you would want to build your team. In January, there was no big updates on Hid Rock properties. The 39-story actually, it says, is moving forward, and we're going to go into that. Hid Rock, and that was necessary. Design approvals. They got approvals in October, which is where I went and looked. This is the tallest tower, and you'll see what we get into. Now they're going to be doing sign-off life. So there is probably an approved 39-story property that's going to just be unbelievable. That's 12 stories was the max. 24 would be 2 times. 36 would be 200% taller, 300%. It's 27 floors taller than any other building that's ever been improved in Wynwood. And depending on what their land basis was, that's what you're going to see. Updated overview for the 39-story Wynwood Tower. It's 0.55 acres, 39 stories, $13 million it was purchased for, which is about 20 million an acre. A 30 on a 0.55 acre site, Hid Rock Properties, 400,000 square feet. I'll have to look at the layouts. This is pretty good. That's about a 26,000 square foot. It's actually smaller than I thought it was. And I might be missing this. It's hard to get these perfectly. These aren't public. You have to go to the zoning hearings and find them individually, but there has been approvals, and I'm going to go into that. You have the restaurant top next steps. This talks about the gross floor plates and this is where they're going to make a lot of money. Typically, even in my market, it's 20,000 a unit. If they have 300 units, it depends what an apartment sells for, but typically it's about 10%. So apartments are probably selling for 350,000 a door. If they got 336 units approved, 336 times 35,000 makes a land worth about 11 million. Let's see what they have here. And I could be wrong. Again, I'd have to look at what they got it for. They got it for about 12, but I think they actually have a little bit more space than that half acre. There's some really, this seems like a pretty big development, but for that small of a space, but that lot coverage is what you're getting, which is unbelievable. This is the Miami Court Holdings, 400 units, live local. I don't believe that there's any updates on this one as well. This is the one that we're talking about, 25 stories, 900 apartments, and 600 parking spaces. This was fully approved and recommended. And this is, again, not 30 stories. I'd have to look. See, I think this is the initial plan, but I think it's actually 36 stories. And it was designed by Kobe Karp. And so was some of the other ones too. So if you want to know what teams to work with, this architect is amazing, Kobe Karp. It talks about 36 floors, 1,300 units. I don't know exactly what they got the land for. Let's see here if I can find it. Land purchase, million. 1 million square feet. Let's see here. Both projects, 2 developers are seeking approvals. The law may allow it to bypass. This is a little bit old. And they go to the Wynwood, and this was actually approved and recommended. Ultimate equity, 1.9 acres. Let's see here. 79,500 units. Clara Homes is a great example. I wouldn't recommend theirs. I can go through that a little bit too. But again, we're just looking at these developments. This is a lot better of a site. It's a lot more units. It's a lot bigger building. This is on par with the kind of developments that we're looking for in our new fund that we're putting together. It's 750,000 square feet and up. And typically that's going to be based on how big of a piece of land you can purchase. So, this is Clara Homes as well, who bought a site for 7 million. Again, if they get 154 units, I would say Miami would probably be 15%. So if you times that by 35,000 times 1.5, that would be 8 million. There you go. I'd have to look a little bit. But their site's a little small. Oh, times 1.5. Yeah, there you go. So that would make the site worth $8 million. So they're paying about what they want, but you typically want to look, what you're looking for is what land is appraising for. You can get appraisal recommendations, right, from institutional level partners. They bought this site for a pretty cheap price, and I'll show you there's a lot of issues with the parking over here. The purchase price was 450 per square foot, which is 19 million an acre. Some of these go for a lot higher, but it's because you can put a lot bigger developments on them, and the parking is much better. This small one, I've never seen a good parking layout, and with the ramps they have like they have tandem parking, and each one has lifts. It's absolute garbage. So this is what it looks like. This is a Wynwood Design Review Board committee minutes. And this is what it's going to look like. This is the zoning attorney that represents them. Burkaw, Riddell, Fernandez, Larkin, and Tap Penez, zoning, land use, and environmental attorneys. It talks about the assemblages that they have. It talks about the property description. If you can't, you can still structure this and do it similarly if you don't feel comfortable, but they're going to take you a lot more seriously if you have a real estate attorney. This talks about how big they could go. It talks about, this is their attorney that talks about the streetscape and other things. And this is a very strong development package, guys. This is about as good as it gets. This talks about the podium. It talks about the art. It gives an artist bio. It talks about who's going to be doing the art. It shows that. It shows the two towers that are here. That's to break it up and show it. And by having such a big, this is what it's going to look like. Again, it's called, let's see what it's called. The ultimate, it'll be Ultimate Equity is the one that's doing it. And then it's going to go into creative. You see it breaks all this out, and you can see who did all this stuff. This is Kobe Karp, right? These architects that are right down here on 28th Street. You have landscape architect, you have the engineering firm. This is a planning and zoning application, P&Z. This shows some of these, it shows that, it shows where it's at. They do the live local calculations. It shows this is what they could build. It shows the maximum number of units, 1,900. They can get 36 stories and they can get 1,900. They're only proposing 1,300. They could do 1 million. They could do 3 million square feet. They're doing 1 million. And so the lot coverage or first floor residential floor plate, you have the setbacks, you have the minimum setbacks. This is their live local calculations. Okay. Now, when you buy more than an acre, you're going to have tons of more space. You really want 60 feet wide so you can park on both sides. And a lot of the times when you're limited on that with ramps, it's going to get very difficult. This shows some of the parking layouts. It shows where it's at. It shows everything. But look, you can see how big this package is. I mean, this is a 1 million square feet development. It shows the elevations. And this is it shows the color versions of it. And I bet you an entitlement package like this costs $350,000 at a minimum, probably more. I would say closer to $600,000 just from my experience. This is almost a full design set all the way to the finish line. Now, they probably have been going back and forth with some of these people. What you're going to want to see here that shows that it was approved, this is a huge, to get an area commission to recommend approval. This is a review comments. This is all the different things. So you can see these plans are turned in 2024. It's now 2025. So it's been more than a year. That's pretty slow. I'm kind of surprised that it took them this long, 10 months to get back here. Now, maybe they were dragging it out. I don't know why that they started to. They got feedback on this within a month, and their architect is maybe they're a little behind. You work through a lot of these, but this is the recommendation. And this says Clara Winwood Live Local. And it was a 3-0 vote, garage screening. And this is the Clara right here. This is 0.38 acres. And this is the one I was talking about. Same thing. You see, so they actually approved the Clara as well, which is crazy to see. Let's go back to the front here and look for that other one. If they gave a recommendation here, it would have been right in front of this application. So actually both of these projects were approved in August, and they both won. These are the two tallest structures that have ever probably been recommended for approval. Ultimate Winwood. Let's see here. 4-0, known as the ultimate. Garage screening, screen internal garage lighting, bring artwork down, break up podium, provide additional screening, consider adding external, consider alternative. This is a 4-0 vote. Final action was on the 18th. So this one right here this is going to be the two tallest projects ever approved and recommended for approval by the design review board, I would guess. Let's see how tall these are all the waivers that they ask for, which have to do with parking. I'm looking for the height here of the ultimate Winwood. So this is what you guys are looking for, these types of, I think the ultimate, we really need to know this. This is the date that it was turned in. 2 or 3 weeks later, they got the approvals. The ultimate Winwood proposed, it says floor area ratio, height, 378 feet. So that's 36 floors. That's 2 times taller than anything. And the problem with the Clara is the lot size. You'll see double parking with the ramps that they have. It's really bad. I'm surprised they actually approved this parking layout because this would never pass where I'm from. This is the Clara. And let's see how tall the Clara is. 22 feet, 23, 22 stories. So that's almost double the highest. 168,000 square feet. And when you look at their parking layouts, this is the problem. This is why we don't buy sites this small. They have these ramps take up the majority of their site. And let me see if I can get to a parking level. It's lift parking. This shows the ramps. That's the podium. Yeah. It's pretty good. These are great packages. So this is the same lawyers, by the way, too. This is, wow, 300 feet tall. Unbelievable. 317 feet. Unreal. This is like how they break it up. I've never seen, this is going to be very costly. I think it makes sense in Miami, and this site again was really underpriced. I would love to see what the appraised value. There's a lot of parts of this, but here's the parking. This is lift parking, and so is this, and these are stacked. So how do you get this out? I'm surprised they didn't bring it in, but these are 2 spots in their lift. It's a mechanical lift system, and same with this one. But if I'm this car and it's easy to bring it down, but I'd have to move some of the other cars. Now, maybe these are for the two bedrooms. Maybe that's how they did these. And they share, or these are all dedicated to the same unit. I don't know, like a four bed or co-living. But this is the problem. You see these, there's no, with this small of a site, you cannot get it. You need at least 60 feet of frontage typically. This isn't how I would have designed it. I think they have this structure. I would have brought this more to the middle and made, put these on the outside. These should have been touching. I don't think they really designed it. If you have basically, um, you see there's no parking over here. So they've, if they smushed this in, and they could have probably put these parking spaces over here. You see how if you moved this side over to there, there might be some reasons depending on the parking layouts, but I would have been working with the architect on that. I've looked at a million parking structures, and even with theirs, I probably would have done more of an automated system or a semi-automated. I just can't believe that 300 feet. So these are going to be the tallest buildings that I've been at. These two buildings were both recommended for approval. And that is the loopholes, guys. So with Live Local, going back to these, the Clara was approved, and so was the Ultimate. Clara, let's see here. I don't think it says 24-hour. Yeah, it doesn't say much. It says 118 story, 200 feet, but when I look at it, it looks like it's 300 feet. So those are the two projects that use Live Local set asides. And if you're an institutional level investor, here's what you have to decide. It's, do you want to, this is where the loopholes are. This is probably the number one, where the price per square foot and interest also match the, and you can see the height gains that they're getting now. Those are both probably over 100 to 200 foot height gains. But I still think that the clear is a little small. Um, I would say you really want a site over half an acre or 22,000 square feet. We got a parking layout of around 52 cars, and then you can do a step back, but I would probably cover more. So larger tend to do better, but now with these sizes, it's just amazing to see that. And that's a smaller deal. This smaller site did trade for a discount, and I think they got more than 154 units. Let's see what was ended up. How many was it? I didn't look at their zoning overview. 16,000 is so small, but they got it done. 147, yep, 130 spaces. But gosh, tandem parking with lift parking too. Those aren't that much. Those mechanical lifts are like 15,000. So they did it right. They did a cost-effective design, but I don't know how they're going to do it, man. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.